For more than 300 years, the Pale Thorn Circle has stood as the most formidable coven in all of Wat Royale. As revealed during the chaos of Season 1, the Circle currently operates under the guidance of 6 powerful magic users: Valentina, Regina, Angelivra, Adina, Elarinith, and Ernestiel. However, to truly understand the Coven's deep influence over the region, we must first uncover the history of every member. While this dark past and origins were established throughout the events of the first season, the sheer scale of the main storyline left no room to fully explore them in the primary summary. Valentina is the oldest living member of the Coven, but she is far from human. The gods call her species Creatio Divina, unique beings shaped directly by divine hands. In the year 446 before the Godhood incident, Lysandra, one of 3 goddesses of luminous magic, felt lonely and distant from her sisters, as they all ruled over their own separate nations. Wishing for true companionship, Lysandra used her divine power to create someone she could talk to openly and someone who was not a god. Made entirely from pure light, Valentina has human emotions but lacks a divine core. Because Lysandra used only pure luminous magic to create her, Valentina exists as a flawless, floating form of light. This makes her truly immortal and her body cannot be damaged or destroyed by any physical weapon. Over the decades, Valentina developed her own mind. She found her own goals and dedicated herself to the study of magic. To help her grow, Lysandra brought her to the godhood, introducing her to a wide circle of powerful mortals and immortals, including famous figures like the headhunter Teramaiti. Valentina soon formed a deep bond with Lysandra's distant sisters in Corsona and Amanaya. Through her warm efforts, she arranged the very first reunion between the 3 goddesses, healing all wounds and bringing them together as a true family. In the year 305 before the Godhood incident, Valentina decided it was time to step out of her creator's shadow. Believing that Lysandra needed to focus on her sisters, Valentina chose to leave Vat Royale and explore the wider world. Though Lysandra was sad to see her leave, she respected the choice. For decades, Valentina traveled across Nexus, mastering countless forms of magic at the highest level and making lifelong friends, while still making regular visits to the godhood. By year 269 before the godhood incident, her longing for home brought Valentina back to Vat Royale for good. Seeking a true place to belong, she dreamed of a building a permanent home, a family of witches bound together as a coven. With the blessing and help of Incorsona, she claimed a quiet territory within the wild Incorlands in 290 before the Godhood incident. Spending the next 2 years working alongside local mystical creatures, she built a grand manor to serve as their safe haven. When searching for members to join her coven, Valentina set 2 strict rules. The witches needed to have great magical power, and they had to form a deep, personal bond with the others so the coven would feel like a real family. Finally, in the year 217, before the cotton incident, Valentina officially founded the Peltor Circle alongside its very first members, Regina, Angelivra and Valanaria, someone whose story we will explore later in this video. Regina Flairwale was born in the year 280 before the Godhood incident as a powerful igneous witch. Her family line is deeply rooted in darkness. Her mother is Ereshkigal, also known as Forneus Clemens, a dreaded guardian of the 7 gates of hell. Throughout Regina's childhood, her mother kept the identity of her father a complete secret. While she pretended to be a loving and caring mother to the outside world, she was secretly cruel and manipulative. To sharpen her daughter's skills, Ereshkigal dragged Regina from coven to coven across Nexus, claiming it was for her magical education. While Regina did learn a great amount of magic, her true wish was simply to find a place where she belonged and make true friends. Sadly, her mother had a much darker motive. Bound by a demonic deal, her own magic grew stronger every time she killed other witches. The moment she decided Regina had learned everything a coven had to offer, she would kill every witch inside it. For years, Regina was forced to watch her new friends die, viewing her mother's cruelty as a deliberate form of mental torture. When Regina turned 20, Ereshkigal left her behind after officially accepting her demonic role to guard the seven gates of hell. Before leaving, she promised to visit Regina once a year, loudly claiming her daughter would one day join her in hell. Regina firmly rejected her, swearing she would rise above her family's dark legacy. Her mother simply laughed, convinced that evil was in their blood. In the year 254 before the Coswood incident, a dark era swept across Nexus. As more witches began making dangerous deals with demons, deep fear spread through the mortal world. This gave rise to violent groups of witch hunters, a time of hunting that happened to match the founding of the Kingdom of Verdermark. Refusing to let innocent witches be murdered out of blind fear, Regina took a bold stand. She became a hunter of witch hunters. For decades, Regina led a fierce war across continent. Her rebellion gathered countless broken covens to her side, uniting them into a massive army known as the Union of the Independent Fighting Sabbaths. Her brave leadership made her famous across the world and earned her the legendary title the Emberborn Heir. After 30 years of leading this heavy conflict, Regina met Valentina. Though Valentina did not call herself a traditional witch at the time, the two formed a deep friendship. Seeing that Regina's fight was just and right, Valentina joined the front line. With Valentina's massive divine power turning the tide of the battle, their union achieved more in 5 years than it had in the previous 30. By year 219, before the Gotthard incident, the continental hunt against the witches was completely defeated, bringing the 35-year war, which Regina officially named the War of the Flames, to a victorious end. While Valentina returned to Val Royale, Regina spent the next 2 years leading honorable funerals for the fallen witches and formally closing down the wartime union. To this day, the surviving covens hold deep respect for Regina, promising to help her without question if she ever calls upon them again. Coming out of the war, Regina realized a deep personal truth. She no longer cared about proving anything to her mother. She had already grown past her family's dark name by becoming a savior instead of a killer, and her mother's opinion had lost all the power over her. The 2 years after the war ended, Valentina invited her to join the newly formed Pale Torch Circle. Remembering Valentina's deep loyalty during the War of the Flames, Regina accepted without hesitation. Angelivra Lunaris remains the most mysterious and secretive figure among the members of the Coven. Born in the year 296 before the Gotthard incident, she comes from Velmory, a nation deeply rooted in the tradition of Tenebris, the magic of darkness. As a chosen moon's oathkeeper, her magical powers and her immortality are strictly tied to the circle of the moon. Because the deeper rules of the moon's magic will be explored in a future lore video, much of Angelivra's true nature remains a secret, for now. What is known is that she has the rare gift to send her mind to the moon through her dreams, a trait shared by many in the Lunaris family line. Because of this, she sleeps through most of the day. Around the year 251 before the Godhood incident, while exploring the depths of her dream powers, she made a direct link with the lunar realm and formed a secret pact with the entity Hecate, officially taking up the title of the Moon's Oathkeeper. While the Moon is deeply connected to the flow of time in the Nexus, Angelivla herself does not have any connection with time. Instead, she acts as a guardian who keeps in regular contact with Hecate. Her sacred duty is simple and absolute: to protect the moon from any cosmic or mortal threat. Her loyalty to her homeland was tested during the massive war between Velmory and Weltweyal, which broke out after the three Luminous nations merged into one giant power. At first, Angelivra stood as one of Velmory's most important wartime defenders. However, as the fighting dragged on, the god of Velmory, Cryon, grew desperate. In a reckless attempt to crush Weltweyal, Cryon ordered his people to forcibly drain and weaponize the raw power of the moon itself. Angelivra was deeply shocked and angered by this act. She already believed the war was pointless to begin with, and she was furious that her own nation would attack the lunar home she was sworn to protect. Because of this, she turned her back on her homeland. Angelivra left Velmory and used her massive powers to help Weltweyal end the war, a fateful choice that brought her face to face with Valentina on the battlefield. Seeing Angelivra's vital role in turning the tide of the war, along with the incredible strength she gained from lunar magic, Valentina knew she would be a powerful ally. When the fighting ended, Valentina extended a formal invitation, welcoming the exiled Oathkeeper as a founding member of the Pale Thorn Circle. Feanaria Verdelin is a name that wasn't mentioned in the previous video, simply because by the time Season 1 begins, she is already dead. She wasn't human but a Dryad. In Nexus, Dryads are spirits born directly from nature, created by the goddess of nature herself. Their main purpose is to grow flora across the world and protect it. There are many different types of Dryads, and Feanaria was formed from leaves, vines and solid stone. By the year 1250 before the Godhood incident, the lands where Feanaria was born were already overflowing with plant life. With her goddess blessing, she decided to travel to far-off regions that needed her help. Her journey brought her to the Inkor lands, which at that time was just a barren wasteland without a single tree or blade of grass. Inkorsona, the goddess of harmony, wanted to make this region livable and asked Feanaria for help. Working together, they transformed the empty lands into a vast, magical forest. Because Inkorsona shared her divine magic during the process, the plants grew to be truly extraordinary. Over time, Feanaria became the true face of the Inkor lands. She opened the borders and welcomed the lost mystical creatures who had nowhere else to go. Because Dryads are born without names, it was Inkorsona who gifted her the name Feanaria. She later received the surname Verdelin from the rescued creatures, chosen to honor a noble man who had protected them before they found shelter in the forests. In the year 217 before the Godhood incident, with a good word from Inkorsona, Valentina invited Feanaria to become one of the founding members of the Pale Thorn Circle. But perhaps the most tragic and important part of her story is how deeply connected she was to the land's creator. During the chaos of the Godhood incident, Feanaria was the only one who heard Inkorsona's very last whisper before she died. Adinel Somnara, better known to her friends simply as Adina, was born in the year 140 before the Godhood incident. Unlike many others in the Coven, She spent most of her early life completely unaware that she was a witch. Orphaned on the street of Vatwayal, her childhood was a daily fight for survival. She slept wherever she could find safety and ate whatever scraps she could find. When she turned 17, she met a wealthy man from a noble family. At first, he seemed like her savior. He took her into his home, gave her food, and showed her kindness. For a short time, she finally felt peace. But the man had a terrible temper. His kindness turned into blind rage. He would destroy everything in his path and eventually began beating her. Adina managed to escape and slowly rebuild her life as a small merchant. During this time, she discovered she was pregnant with his child. Just 6 months later, the nobleman tracked her down. He destroyed her reputation, beat her once again, and locked her inside his home as a slave until the baby was born. Trapped and terrified, Adina awakened her magical power for the very first time. In a panic, she unleashed her magic and accidentally killed her abuser. She fled the city immediately, and just 1 week later she gave birth to a son, naming him Nathaniel. To survive and feed her little boy, Adina was forced to become a thief. When Nathaniel was 4 years old, she stole a large bag of money from a rich merchant, hoping it would finally buy them a safe life. But the merchant was cruel and vengeful. He hired the legendary headhunter, the Romaiti. Because the price to kill Adina was too high, the merchant paid him to target her child instead. When Taromaiti entered her home, Adina was terrified. She believed she was about to die, leaving her son an orphan just like her. She never expected him to strike at Nathaniel. The headhunter killed the little boy, an act so heartbreaking that even Taromaiti himself felt deep sorrow. Consumed by grief and rage, Adina attacked him with everything she had. She unleashed a blast of magic so powerful that it collapsed 3 nearly buildings. The strike hit the Almighty directly, leaving his face deeply scarred and impossible to heal. This sent shockwaves to the world, as no one in Nexus, not even higher beings, had ever managed to wound him so badly. Broken, starving, and mourning her son, Adina wandered the dark forest for 3 days. There, Valentina found her. Seeing her deep pain and her incredible power, Valentina reached out her hand, officially welcoming Adina into Peltor Circle in the year 119 before the Godhood incident. Elarinit Viralun is the youngest member of the Coven, born just 9 years before the Godhood incident in a quiet village within the nation of Vitriora. From the very day she was born, she was naturally tied to Crystallis magic, the magic of crystals, but she also carried a rare inherited gift, the gift of true foresight. Only a select few in the Viralund bloodline were born as seers, and in her family, this power always came with a terrible price. For years, her visions were completely uncontrolled. Every time she caught a glimpse of the future, the sheer force of magic shattered her mind. Each vision damaged her brain, leaving her in blinding pain that lasted for hours on the end. After the Godwood incident, the entire world plunged into decades of chaos. In the 10th year after the catastrophe, her home village was targeted by the terrifying faction known as the Deadly Sins. 2 days before the attack, Alarenet had a horrible vision of her village burning to the ground. She tried desperately to warn her people, but almost no one believed her. When she tried to warn her parents, the agony in her hand was so intense she couldn't speak even a single word. When the invasion finally hit, the village was completely destroyed. Elrenit was the sole survivor. Carrying heavy guilt, she convinced herself that her silence was the reason her parents died. With her home gone and her mind still in torment, she decided to make the perilous journey to the Inkerlands, knowing the Peltor Circle was her only hope for survival. For 2 grueling weeks, she walked from Bitiora all the way to Valet starving, exhausted, and fighting constant head pain. She barely dodged the war and chaos along the road. The moment she finally reached the manor of the Peltor Circle, her body gave out. She collapsed on their doorstep and fell into a deep coma for an entire month. Valentina and Adina took the broken girl inside and nursed her back to health. When Elarinis finally woke up and shared her tragic story, Valentina saw incredible potential in her. Recognizing how vital Asir could be for the future of the Coven, Valentina offered her a permanent home, promising not only to protect her, but to help heal her mind and teach her how to master her visions without pain. Ernestiel Noctaris was born in the year 47 before the Godhood incident. Unlike any other members of the Coven, Ernestiel is half vampire. His mother was a human, while his father was a pure-blood vampire from the nation of Sangrealia, a rare heritage that made Ernestiel truly extraordinary. However, Sangrealia is a forbidden land for humans. They are strictly banned from crossing its borders, and the region is protected by a Sanguis magic that instantly kills any human who dares to step inside. When Ernestiel was 19 years old, his father received an absolute command from his homeland. He was ordered to return to Sacralia and remain there forever. His mother was heartbroken. Unable to bear the separation, she secretly followed her husband as he left her home. The moment his father crossed the border into Sacralia, the deadly barrier triggered. He turned around only to hear the horrifying screams of his wife as the magic claimed her life. Consumed by overwhelming grief and guilt, his father took his own life shortly after. Left completely alone, Ernestiel traveled to Sangrealia himself. Because of his vampire blood, the barrier spared him, allowing him to enter safely. But his heart was filled with mourning and rage. Seeking answers for his family's destruction, he boldly marched to the royal court to confront Wraith, the goddess of Sanguis and the magic of blood, and also the rule of Sangrealia. Wraith was furious. She was disgusted that a half-human would dare step into her domain, and enraged that mortal would question the authority of a goddess. Yet showing a tiny shred of mercy for his vampire blood, she commanded her royal seer to look into his future. The seer predicted that Ernestiel would die in that very chamber within moments. Following the prophecy, Wraith ordered her royal guards to execute him. To the absolute shock of everyone in the room, Ernestiel fought back. He slaughtered every guard who attacked him and stood alive before the throne. Wraith was deeply impressed. Though she still despised his human side, she realized he was a truly rare phenomenon, a destiny child, a being born with the subconscious power to alter the threads of fate itself, making Seer visions completely useless against him. Instead of killing him, Wraith locked him away in the dark dungeon, where he remained trapped for 115 years. Finally, in the year 87 after the Godhood incident, a group of vampires broke into his cell and helped him escape. They revealed that they had been sent by someone who was waiting for him on the outside. They safely smuggled him across the borders into the Inkerlands, where he was greeted by Valentina and Adina. Seeing his incredible strength and his defiance against the fate, they officially welcomed him into the Peltor Circle. 1 year after the Peltor Circle was officially founded, recognizing the undeniable strength of the Coven during the conflict, the leaders of the Order of the Luminous Vow reached out with a formal proposition. They invited the Pale Circle to hold a seat of high authority within the Violet Royal Council, believing that such a powerful assembly belonged at the very center of the nation's leadership. True to her vision for the Coven, Valentina politely but firmly declined the offer. She had built the Circle to be an independent family, and not a political instrument. However, both sides recognized the danger of two massive magical forces existing in the same realm. To ensure long-lasting peace after the horrors of the war, they came to a mutual agreement. The Circle and the Order forged a sacred, binding magical pact. They swore never to raise a hand against one another, dedicating their separate path toward a shared, ultimate goal: the permanent protection of Violet Royal and its people. In the immediate aftermath of the Godhood incident, the entire nation of Violet Royal plunged into absolute chaos. With their gods gone, the residents of the Incorlands knew it was only a matter of time before a new, mortal power rose up to claim control of the realm. Refusing to be ruled by a future corrupt government, both the Incorlands and the neighboring Amanayaticans declared a unique form of independence. While they officially remained on the Violet Royal soil, they established their lands as sovereign sanctuaries where no capital authority holds any power. Looking for guidance in this brave new era, the people and creatures of the Incorlands chose Faenaria as their leader, honoring her as their true mother of Incorland's nature. From day one of the catastrophe, the Pelton Circle stood by her side, working tirelessly to protect and support everyone within the borders. While the surrounding world spent decades tearing itself apart, Faenaria's deep love and leadership kept the Incorlands remarkably safe and stable. Tragically, this peace was shattered 14 years after the Godhood incident. The terrifying faction, known as the Deadly Sins, invaded the Incorlands, launching a brutal campaign to burn every mystical forest and slaughter every living creature in their path. The Pelican Circle rode out to meet the invaders in a fierce, devastating battle. Through overwhelming magical force, the witches successfully drove the Deadly Sins out of the Incorlands. But the victory came at the ultimate cost. During the defense of her beloved forests, Faenaria was killed. Heartbroken by the loss of her leader, the creatures and residents of the Incorlands formally requested that the Peltor Circle take over as the protectors of the realm. The witches accepted the mantle. To honor their fallen sister, the circle created Verdelin's Festival, a grand annual celebration that gathers every creature and inhabitant of the Incorlands to commemorate the lives of both Incorsona and Faenaria. From the day they took command, and with the full blessing of the locals, the Peltor Circle opened the borders of the Incorlands to magic users from all across the world. They happily welcome exiled witches and wandering covens seeking a safe home. This is why, to this day, the Incorlands is filled with countless independent covens, all of whom live in a strict harmony, deeply caring for the mystical forests and sacred creatures that inhabit them. Today, the Pelton Circle is centuries old. It commands immense authority and deep respect, not just within the Incorlands, but across foreign nations all over the world. Over those many years, each member of the Coven had evolved and found a personal path of their own. Valentina continues her relentless pursuit of magical knowledge, driven by the belief that she could eventually master every form of magic in existence. She has already achieved absolute perfection in nearly 12 different magics. When she is not studying, she remains a fierce warrior hunting down and fighting the deadly sins wherever they surface across the continent. Regina has stepped into a vital diplomatic role between nations. She dedicates her time and power to freeing desperate witches from their dark demonic pacts. Though she still meets with her mother once a year, her stance has never wavered. She strictly refused to inherit the bloody mantle as a guardian of the seven gates of hell. Angelivra has changed very little over the centuries. She remains a silent guardian of the moon, only surfacing when her coven truly needs her. In her quiet waking hours, she has developed a deep passion for brewing complex potions, specifically crafting healing remedies to soothe and restore Elrenith's recovering brain. Adina has naturally grown into the maternal heart of the manor. She oversees all internal politics and diplomacy across the Inkerlands, and she has formed a deep, protective bond with Ernestil, treating him almost like an adopted son. As White Whale has entered its modern technological era, Adina has taken a keen interest in studying human inventions. However, she firmly believes that the ancient rules of the gods must never be broken. Because of this, she strictly limits her engineering, using technology solely to build medical aids and prosthetics that help injured and disabled creatures live normal lives. And yet, despite her wisdom and the passage of time, she has never forgiven Teromite for the loss of her little boy. Elerinith suffers far less pain than she did in her youth. Thanks to Valentina's guidance, she has finally learned to control her gift of foresight, choosing to use her exhausting visions only on rare occasions. To bring peace to her home, she loves placing enchanted crystals throughout the Incorland's forests, radiating calming auras and soothing energies for the local creatures. She has also become the Coven's primary historian, traveling the world to collect rare magical artifacts for the Vault. Ernestil frequently joins Valentina on her dangerous missions to hunt the deadly sins, always eager for an excuse to travel beyond the borders of the Inkerlands. Back at home, he throws his heart into helping organize the annual Verdurins Festival, and he often takes time to teach advanced magical techniques to the lesser covens residing in the forests. And finally, to answer one last lingering question that many of you might already be wondering, no. Despite all the centuries of combined knowledge and seer visions, the Patron Circle still does not know who killed the goddess Amanaya during the Godhood incident or why.